Hey there, Goa fans. This is Mark DJ Solitaire here with episode 128 of Retro Goa Explorations, my weekly series in which I present in each episode one of my favorite tracks from the 1990s Goa Trance psychedelic dance movement. So today, a fascinating project who really had a unique style and a range of sounds, as all of the beloved projects that we have in our scene had back in those days, where you could recognize the sound somewhat, perhaps, but there was a variety, a range of tempos, a range of moods, and so on. This is a track, a project, I should say, whose album came out. Now, it's stamped 1996 at the back. Discog says 1997 in February. Now, we're doing tracks at this point in the series, ostensibly things that I came across in the autumn of 97 through to the summer of 98. I definitely had this by the time I left London in February 98. I'm not sure when I got it. It was not early on, soon after its apparent February 97 release or whatever came before that. But I think by the end of the summer or the beginning of the autumn, I had it. And there were a few tracks that I really went for right away on this very quirky, different kind of album. It was released on Spirit Zone, and Spirit Zone, a German label, really went for a lot of variety and a range of styles that were quite often quite broody, although very different with the Spirit Zone, sort of the Space Tribe stuff, I should say, right? Many albums, Space Tribe came out on Spirit Zone, but a real range. And I think filling in some necessary gaps and some, opening up some different styles from some of what we're hearing from the, the London-based labels, right? Flying Rhino, Dragonfly, Tip, and so on. Matsuri was, also had, a range of styles and so on. So, one of the things that I really learned in Japan, and I think especially hearing Kuni of Tokyo Techno Tribe and the Equinox parties, was a huge range of sounds and styles and how different ones worked so uniquely at specific times of night. And this is really one of those. I mean, for me, it just really stands out as a really important, largely nighttime, not entirely, but certainly the track that we're featuring today, I think will be perfect for this. So, okay, so I haven't even named the project yet. It's a fun one to spell and to pronounce. So I always have to look up the spelling. And I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing Oliloquy properly, but that's who it is. And we're going to listen to the track of Voltage, which I've seen sometimes written with an accent on it. So I'm not sure if it's supposed to be Voltage, which sounds much more sophisticated, but it is a blinding track and an interesting one because it's only 135, but it packs a punch, as we've found out, right? And we've heard many times before, it's not about the BPM exclusively. That's part of the flavor, but what's going on in the track can really get you moving. So I'm going to share a few details that were graciously shared by Volker Koenig, who started the project as an offshoot of his project Factor that had been on Tunnel Records. And some of these tracks actually started off as Factor tracks. And then, so it was Volker who had the alias AM Synaptic, and Oliver Eichenbroich who joined him then. And so the album was called Ditto, and you only see Ditto. I couldn't see it on the cover, but you can see it on the CD. And it's spelled D-I-T-O, but the meaning is ditto in English, D-I-T-T-O, meaning the same. And what it means is that the album name is the same as the project name, which is Oliloquy. And Oliloquy is a woody-stemmed Mexican vine of the morning glory family, with single seeds that are used especially by the native Indians for medicinal, narcotic, and religious purposes. So there you go. So, yeah, the tracks are largely 1994 to 1996. There's a couple of them you see that say live 1996. And as I said, some of them started off as factor tracks. Those, I never had them at the time as factor, and I just heard some recently, and I was like, I'm sure that I heard Cooney play that at some of those Equinox parties. Definitely this kind of vibe. So, so Factor was, I'll quote Volker here. Factor was my trance project after quitting Neuwerk. I released on Tunnel Records, but I wanted to do a more Goa Trance project and formed Oliloquy at first alone, and a bit later Oliver came in as a second member. Oliver and I were very intense party people at this time, and this was the foundation for our ideas. Together, we try to capture what we experienced. Voltàge is the attempt to capture the energy and the personal emotions that we experienced and sampled at this time. And Voltàge is a journey through a dynamic emotional energy trip on the dance floor. It sure is. And it's special moments that we all know. There's a few vocal samples. You're going to hear one that sounds like a wolf cry, which is pretty identifiable. And then the rest of it, you just hear some things with echoes. And I was like, what, are there any words there? And he's like, it was just babbling or burbling. In German, gebrabbel. We learned a nice new word. So they just did it to add effects, and they experimented a lot with samples of their own voices. So, this is one of the things that I just loved. I think back then, when it was fresh and new, is everybody wanted to translate the experiences, and they wanted to experiment. And every time we went on the dance floor, it was a kind of experiment, right? And we didn't know what we're going to experience entirely. And so there was that freshness, right? So hedonic adaptation had not kicked in. That's that part of the brain that's sort of like, I've experienced this before. And you get used to it. So it was all kind of new and adventurous. And so when the musicians were making music in that way, I think we still feel and hear that kind of, hey, something here is new, something here is different. My current experience is different from what it has been before. Now, of course, if you've heard the track, 500 times over the last 30 years, it's not as new, but context can always change things. And I still think the energy that goes into the creation of a track is experienced to some degree by those who hear it. And so we're going to listen to Voltàge. It was really hard to choose. There's the whole album is just like wild and completely unique. And there were several that I was like, being pulled in all directions. But this is one of the ones that I've played more regularly. And it's a really powerful one. So let's get started. I'm going to listen now to Voltàge by Oliloquy. So I love how it starts off with this rhythmic, pitched, but really articulated, right? Like you can feel the pressure of those sounds, and then there's that mystical, magical, harmonic stuff coming down. Very eerie. Very textured, and then kick comes in. Lots of texture. And with that as well, just that repeated note and that rhythm, but you feel the texture, you can feel all of the sounds. Now, this one is softer, this is less articulation, right? So it's more legato, and it's just, again, this hypnotic loop. Very evocative and mysterious. Right, now we get a harmony with that. Well, we get that garbled voice. And we get some ups and downs here, which is like old school Goa Trance, but the mood here is very different. I always thought some of that sounds a little bit like helicopter, some kind of sound like that. Then notice those wonderful little hi-hats up there. Then we get this cool voice with that, how it feels like those two upper notes are part of that, but they also stand alone. And again, this is like, these voices coming to you from all dimensions. If you're outdoors especially, it's like those voices whispering from the trees. Really the patterns really sound quite like, somebody whispering, like this low kind of voice, this sort of really evocative and voice-like. It's fantastic percussion. Amazing range of sounds, including that. Now we don't have those two notes above, right? So we just have this murmuring one. So mysterious. And we get that ascending, descending pattern with some little bongos. And again, this repetition really gets you in that hypnotic state when you have that kind of mantra-like repetition. This really sounds like a voice as well. Really coming from another dimension, and that. Cool. Wolf cry in the background. Love how, all these things that we've heard before are coming in different ways, and just the whole storyline is amazing. And now a tighter loop here. Just that broody, aerated sound. Hear that murmuring as well. Just shifted over there. Just pay attention to these voices. They really go through little shifts. It's quite amazing. The rhythmic stuff is incredible. Slightly different voicing now for that descending pattern. Bounce, right? So it's all broody and mysterious, but it's kind of also got this, kind of cheery thing going on. It's really quixotic and quirky. Now we get this voice coming back. Really creative use of the drums for that break there and leading in to the next section. I mean, you need it, for all of these tracks, you can go back and listen again and again, and you start hearing different textures and interactions between voices. And that sort of very sinewy, sensual kind of voice and whiny quality here. Sounds like a snake charmer. Great hi-hats, as well as a kick. And a higher octave. I love that almost. It's just amazing. Can't even describe it. Again, that repetition. And we're back where we started. You just get this wonderful fade out with that voice. Some of that sound going up and then fading. So for me, that is like similar to something I was talking about recently, like 3 in the morning in the forest. Like like really voices are coming at you. It's mysterious, it's broody, you don't know what's coming. I mean, it really keeps you in the moment. The storyline is great, but several mysterious kinds of riffs, lots of things sounding really voice like. The a range of synth sounds, fantastic use of rhythm and on different frequency levels. So that was great. But the beginning, as I said, it's really clearly articulated to the point that you can almost feel the texture of the sounds that are coming, and then there's that smoother synthesized kind of sound as well. So it's one of the other dimensions that I pick up in this track is that range of how articulated and textured some of these voices are, just absolutely magical. So, a really phenomenal project. Wish we had more. Glad we have what we do. And again, like as I said, several tracks from this album that I could have chosen to feature, but this has long been a favorite, as of them all. Anyway, had to do something, and this was it. Definitely gets your voltage charged up. Thank you, Volker, for sharing some of your thoughts and memories. And I will sign off and leave you with the complete track to listen to without any commentary. So I'm Mark DJ Solitaire, wrapping up episode 128 of Retro Goa Explorations and leaving you with Oliloquy's Voltage.